Hey everyone, thanks for being here tonight. I'm Frank, Frank Mio. I'm a certified uh, personal trainer with Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology and as well as a health coach through Precision Nutrition. I work typically one-on-one with men around 20 to 30s who are ambitious, usually doing well in their careers, but stuck in a reoccurring cycle with their health and fitness. They get motivated, they go hard, works for a while, but then life gets busy and it all falls apart. So tonight I'm going to show you the system that I use with coaching my clients on how to break that cycle. And I do mean a system. It's not a meal plan. It's not a workout program. Those aren't the problem. If information was the problem, you'd already be in the best shape of your life. So before we get into it, have something to write with, and you're going to be doing some actual work. So let's get started. All right, so here's what you're going to walk away with tonight. By the end of this 60 minutes, you'll have a self-assessment that shows you exactly where your system is breaking down. Not a guess, an actual rating you'll do for yourself, and you'll understand the identity shift that separates men who stay in shape from the men who just keep trying to get in shape. So we're going to build your personal bare-ass minimum plan, and that's just going to be a floor for your movement, nutrition, and recovery, so that even on your worst, busiest, most stressful weeks, you still have something to go on. You're never going to zero. You're still keeping that momentum going. By the end, I'll show you two paths forward. So one where you take everything from tonight and run it on your own, and another where you work together with me and we implement it. But the workshop itself stands on its own. So you're going to leave either way with the tools that you can use tomorrow, regardless. No extreme diets, no living in the gym, just a real system for real life. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the cycle. And I know you recognize it because you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't. So step one, you go all in. You're fired up. You buy the program. You set macros. You're in the gym 5 or 6 days a week, lifting heavy. Maybe even see some results. 20 pounds or 25 pounds lost, and you're thinking, this is it. This is it. This is good. Everything's going as planned. But then step two, life gets in the way. Maybe there's a deadline at work or a holiday comes up, family event, a stretch of bad sleep. Your stress goes up, your time gets squeezed, your motivation dips, and the plan that was working perfectly starts to crack or fall apart. And then step three is you fall off and it happens all at once. Or it doesn't always happen all at once, but eventually, it's a 2 day gap where you're not doing anything and you get kind of comfortable again with that and you're slowly the gap is becoming a week or then a month and then you're just kind of looking at yourself and you've gained everything back and you kind of started back from where you started. And the worst part isn't just like the weight gain, it's just knowing that in your head, it's feeling like it's like, is it even going to work? Is this really going to work this time? Or is it ever going to work? So here's the thing I want you to hear. The problem isn't your effort, it's the system. And every man I've worked with, they've always proven that they can do the hard part, they can go all in, or he can lose the weight, but he hasn't built something that holds up when conditions aren't perfect. So when they rely on willpower instead of building something sustainable that creates some short-term compliance or some short-term results, but not the long-term consistency. And that distinction matters because compliance is what you do when you're on, and consistency is what you do when life is still happening. So tonight we're going to address the three pieces that are actually missing. Not really more information, not more motivation. Three structural shifts that change how the whole thing works. Okay, so this is my method. fire method that I've been using. And this is found having a foundation, a proper identity, resilience, and then from there, evolution and going further into it, expanding on what you want to do with your goals. So foundation is about what you build before you chase any aggressive results. Identity is about shifting from discipline-based change to identity-based change. And resistance is about creating a system that works on busy, stressful, and imperfect weeks, not just on the best weeks. Evolution is the ongoing piece. That's a long game of refining, adapting, and growing. So we're not going to really go into that tonight because everything else is kind of what that's built on. So let's start with foundation. Okay, so secret one, building a foundation before chasing aggressive results. So this is having standards, structure, and stability. Here's what most men do. So they usually skip this entirely. They go straight into an aggressive plan. Strong calorie deficit, 6 day a week training plan, training split, uh, specific macro targets, and that all works for a while because when motivation's high and life is calm, almost any plan can work. But what happens when motivation drops? When you have a stressful week or when a holiday hits, the plan breaks apart because it was built on nothing. There's not really a foundation holding it up. So before we chase fat loss, or before you chase muscle, before you chase a more impressive physique, you want that foundation built that you can actually hold those results with. And that foundation is going to have three pillars. Okay, so let's name the problem more clearly. What most men do is jump into an aggressive plan powered by brute discipline, and they rely on willpower to push through, and they hope motivation carries them. But what actually happens, it might work for a few weeks, maybe a bit longer. I've seen guys even hold together for 4 or 5 months. They lose 20, 25 pounds, they're feeling great, but then stress rises, life gets busy, and the plan collapses. Then they are starting over again. So I see this pattern with almost every man that I coach. And here's the part that's important. Um, because the crash doesn't happen because of laziness. It's happening because of a specific predictable disruption, like a new job or a change in job pace, holiday, a busy season, um, family event, just any unexpected or at least something that just throws a wrench into everything that you're doing. These aren't really random because they're inevitable. And if your plan has no strategy for them, it's not really a plan. It's just well, it's not a good plan because you don't have those backup options set up. So then I work with aren't lacking discipline. They've proven they can do hard things. What they haven't done is built a system that survives the disruption, and they've been solving a behavior problem with gathering more information, trying more meal plans or more macro targets or different training programs. And this might work if you're younger and have lots of spare time on your hands, or you don't have a lot of responsibilities, or you can just dedicate everything to that. But for everybody else, you might need something with specific things that you can plan for this to happen. So this always will create short-term compliance and not long-term consistency. And that's exactly what the foundation is designed to fix. Okay, so here's the three pillars of your foundation. We got standards, structure, stability. Let's walk through each one. So standards is what standards do I say I have, but I don't constantly live by? It's the gap between what you believe about yourself and what your daily behaviors actually show. Most of the men I work with will say that health matters to them, but it's more of an afterthought. They'll say, I want to have energy, but they're staying up until midnight every night. Or they'll say, I want to lead by example for my family, but they know their current habits don't reflect that. So standards is about getting honest about what you claim to value versus what you actually do. Then we have structure. So the question here is, what routines are missing that would make consistency easier? No workout schedule, no default meal options for busy days, no shutdown routine at night. When structure is missing, every single day becomes a decision. Do I go to the gym? What do I eat? When do I stop working? And decisions do require willpower. So willpower is finite. Structures remove this decision. You just know what to do and you just do it. Um, So instead of do I go to the gym, what do I eat, and when do I stop working out, you have a plan that is addressing all of these questions and you stick to it. So structure removes the decision-making process. It removes having to have motivation. It removes that decision fatigue. The men who stay consistent have routines that make the right choice by default, not the exception. All right, and then finally we got stability. So here So here is what knocks off track when like what knocks you off track when the stress goes up. This is a big one because most plans are built for calm weeks, but your life isn't always calm. So work, stress, poor sleep, evening overeating, skipping your planning, these are all the specific things that knock you off. And if you don't have a strategy for them, you're just waiting for the next disruption to take you back off track. Yeah, so structure. Yeah, structure is part of what I'm missing. Yeah, so without structure, you're not able to hold everything together. So we need this as part of the foundation. And once you have a solid foundation, then you can start building up upon that. Okay. All right, so if you want to take a real quick look here, to just find your weakest link, and preferably if you have a pen or pencil, pen and paper, and you can write it down, give yourself a little bit of writing, and just being honest with yourself here. So standards is just how closely do your daily actions match the standards you say that you hold. So if you say health matters, but it's the first thing that gets dropped when life gets busy, then it's not really like you're not a 10 out of 10 for having health as your standard. It might be that you don't, I mean, it might be that health itself isn't what you are, isn't something that's important to you, but if you can at least find something within health that is important to you that you can link to that, then you can kind of keep that in your standards. But otherwise, you want to take a look at how much that is actually true. Next, we have structure. So that's so yeah, first like give yourself a rating out of 10 there then. And then we're gonna have structure. So how much of your health is supported by actual routines versus just daily willpower decisions? So if you're winging your meals, if your training schedule changes week to week, you don't have a consistent wind down at night, it might tell you something. So take a look at that and see how much structure are you actually putting into your plan to get yourself back or to improve your health. You can write in chat or you can just I definitely would say it'd be good to write it down. I am a strong believing believer in writing it down can help really cement what you're doing in your own mind. Makes it more real, more tangible. But I'd love to hear anyone who wants to put it in chat. That'd be great. Okay, so now we're gonna just take a look at these. Um, oh, sorry, and stability. So how well do you hold up when stress increases? So when you have a hard week at work, or just a hard week working, or when sleep is suffering, when schedule gets compressed, do you adapt or do you abandon? Um, so again, write down your number. Okay. And then we're going to just, all right, great. Yeah. So if you got your numbers down, I want you to just take a look at these and decide which one is the lowest or see which one's the lowest. Where's your weakest length? And that's where your system is breaking down first. So here is the insight. So the weakest pillar is the ceiling on everything else. You want to have great structure, but if your stability is a three, then one hard week wipes everything out. So if you have high standards, but your structure is like a two, you're relying on willpower every single day. So most men try to fix their health by training harder or eating stricter. But this assessment is going to tell you where your actual bottleneck is. So it's not usually, it might not be what you think. So that's self-assessment. So keep a hold of those. And let's see. So next we have is shifting from discipline-based change to a more of an identity-based change. So this is a shift most men never make. You want to stop chasing results and start becoming the kind of man who those results come from. So it's a big difference between someone who's always trying to get in shape and then someone who stays in shape. And it's not discipline, it's not willpower, and it's not information. It's identifying, it's your identity. So, so someone who stays in shape, they don't have to, they're not just going to white knuckle their way through it every single time for every meal and every workout. They're operating from a different place. Their health isn't just a project they're working on, it's part of how they live. It's part of how he lives. When you're trying to get in shape, every day is a battle. But when you are the kind of man who takes care of himself, the decision gets easier because it doesn't have to be a decision. There are certain things you're just doing effortlessly. Um, you're keeping yourself to certain standards. So that's a shift that we're talking about. Okay, so here's why discipline alone keeps failing you. So discipline-based change only works when you feel fired up, when life's calm, when stress is manageable, and when you're mentally on. So how often are all these four things true at the same time? Probably not too much. Maybe in the past when you had you didn't have to work so much, or you just had school to worry about, you could really just dedicate all your free time to what you're eating and your workouts and all that kind of stuff. You don't have a lot of stress that's going to throw you off, or you could probably even just rely on motivation alone. But if your entire plan depends on being in that state, and when you got more responsibilities that you're going to have other things that are going to knock you off, or you're going to have those more stressful weeks, then you have a system that's only working like 30% of the time, or however much of the time that you have those calm periods. And so for all that other time, that's where the slide happens. That's where the gap opens. That's where you end up thinking, what's wrong with me and why can't I just stay consistent? So nothing's wrong with you. You've just built a system that requires ideal conditions to function. That's a design flaw, not a character flaw. So identity-based change works differently. It's going to help you act in alignment even when you don't feel like it. Not because you're grinding through with willpower, but because the action is connected to something deeper than motivation. It's connected to who you are. Here's an example. So, a man who relies on discipline says, I should go to the gym today. But a man who operates from identity says, I'm the kind of man who trains. The first one is negotiated. The second one isn't even a question. So that's not just a mindset trick, it's a structural difference in how you relate to your own health, and it's something you can build deliberately. All right, so here's how the shift actually works. So, four steps. Step one is identifying your core values. So this is not just your fitness goals. This is your values. This is what actually matters most to you. That could be freedom, it could be family, excellence, self-respect, leadership. Um, it can be, yeah, it could be your partner. It could be anything. But if like some people do value health, but a lot of people really they value the things that their health supports. So identify your core values. Step two is connecting that to your health. So that's what I was just talking about. So this is the part that most men skip or that don't get addressed. They treat health as a separate category, a side project that you maybe they don't even know why they're actually getting in health in shape, or like when if you ask them about their goals, they want to lose weight, but you say why? If you can't really answer that other than because you feel like it's something you should do, then you're not connecting to your values. You don't really know why you're doing this. So if you value being a strong leader, but you can't manage your own body, then there's a bit of a disconnect. If you value freedom, but you're trapped in a cycle you can't break, that's a contradiction. So health has to become part of how you live and what matters, not just a side goal. Yes, that's another great example. So if you want to if you want to be healthy for your kids, for a good role model. So that is a much stronger va connected value than just saying, I want to have six pack abs. Because one of them is attached to something that actually matters to you. Other one, it might matter to you, but it's more of just vanity. So step three is then defining the man you want to become. So not just what you want to achieve, who you want to be, not I want to lose 30 pounds. Instead, I want to be the kind of man who handles stress without destroying his body, who leads by example. Someone who keeps his commitments to himself the same way he keeps them at work. That's a different target, and it pulls differently. And then finally, step four, which is start acting from that identity. So once you can identify yourself in this way, um, and even small actions count here. Every time you make a choice that aligns with that identity, even a small one, you're building evidence towards that identity. You're building evidence for that version of yourself. You're not faking it. You're accumulating proof. You're doing the things that that identity would do, and you're proving to yourself that you are that identity. So over time, that proof becomes a new belief in yourself, and that belief becomes a default behavior. So the men who stop restarting are usually not the most motivated. They're the ones who stopped treating health like a temporary project and started making it a part of who they are. Okay, so the identity question. If my body matched my standards, how would I think, act, and live? So this is a second piece of work for you tonight. I wanted you to write this down again. If my body matched my standards, how would I think, act, and live? So I want you to actually answer this, not just in your head, but on paper is going to be the best way. Again, like I was saying, that helps create tangible something that feels like you're actually working towards something there. So you got to tell yourself, or you got to put like, how would you eat? Not a meal plan. How would you relate to your food? Like, what kind of food do you want to be eating? Would you plan ahead? Would you stop using food to decompress after work? Would you eat with intention instead of just on autopilot? How would you train? How would you have a schedule, or would you have a schedule that doesn't change every week? Would you stop skipping sessions because you don't feel like it? Are you going to uh, put it in your calendar like you do for appointments, or are you just going to do it when you feel like it? What is the person? What is this new person? What is this identity? How would they act? How would you handle a stressful week? Do you have a plan? Have you thought about what kind of obstacles you're going to come into? How are you going to protect that? What are you going to do when unexpected things come up? What is your backup plan? How would you protect your sleep? Would you have something other than food and a screen to manage your stress? All right. How would you carry yourself? How would you show up at work? How would you show up to your family, to your partner, in your relationships? Write your answers. Take a minute on this one. Okay. So here's a third secret. Secret number three. And this is one that makes a lot of the whole thing kind of hold together in real life. If your plan only works in ideal conditions, it doesn't really work. So you need a system that's going to survive real life. And real life includes bad sleep, long work weeks, travel, family obligations, holidays, and stretches where your motivation is at zero. Hard weeks are not a failure. They are a test of your system, and most systems fail that test, especially at first. So, because a lot of times they just were never designed for it in the first place, and that is where BAMs are going to come in. So these are your going to be your bare ass minimums here. Okay, so here's how most plans are usually built. Um, So most plans kind of assume these things. They assume high motivation, lots of time, stable routines, low stress, perfect execution. They assume you're going to hit every meal, every workout, recovery target, week after week. A lot of plans you might even find online are like this. They're built around more athletes, athletic goals, people who don't have a lot of obligations, maybe. But and when that works, it feels amazing. You're dialed in, you're seeing results. You're the guy who's on. It feels great to do that when you do have some time that you know you can dedicate into something like this. It can be very enjoyable. But when a hard week hits, or you miss a session, or maybe another one, then you eat off plan for a few days, and instead of adapting, you abandon, or you feel like you gotta just restart again. You start over later. But that's because the plan it never had a middle ground. It was kind of all or nothing. You're either on the plan or you're off the plan. And then once you're off, it feels like you got to start over, and it feels like you failed and you're just starting again. So every time that happens, you feel guilty, you feel behind, um, and this is the real cost. You lose trust in yourself a little bit. The more you keep telling yourself you're going to do something and you don't do that, that has an effect on you, and that affects how you are going to approach that when you try to do it again. You're going to carry that with you. Um, so that erosion of self-trust is what makes each restart harder than last. It's not that the diet failed, it's that your belief in your own follow-through took another hit. Yes, you say, I want to be healthy. Uh, yeah, okay. So the question becomes, how do I have more, or sorry, the question isn't how do I have more perfect weeks? The question becomes, what's my plan for the imperfect one? And that's what BAMS is trying to answer here. So this protects your momentum when life gets messy. They're not your ideal plan. They're your non-negotiable floor. They're the line below which you do not drop no matter what. It's what you always do. It's something simple. It's your simplest workout routine that you can get it done at home at any time, maybe with just your body weight stuff. It's making sure you hit particular nutrition goals that are easy enough but keep you going. Okay, so we got a few categories we want to keep in mind when thinking about these. So we got our move, fuel, and recovery. So move. So this is going to be the minimum amount of activity. that keeps you physically engaged. Not your full training program. This is your floor. This is maybe it could just be a step target. Maybe it's a 20-minute walk. Maybe it's a quick body weight session or a mobility routine, a morning stretch even. It's all going to depend where you are, what works best for you, what is something you know that you can get done no matter what, that's going to keep you keeping that momentum, keeping you on top of that you're not just letting yourself slide to nothing. Okay. So what's that minimum that keeps you in motion even on your worst week? Something you know you can always keep up to. And we got fuel. This is the minimum nutrition standard that stops your eating from fully sliding. It's not your perfectly tracked macros. It's your floor. Maybe it's hitting a minimum protein target that you know you're always going to hit every week. Maybe it's always eating 3 solid meals. Maybe it's just making sure you have vegetables on every plate, or that you're staying properly hydrated. So the standard here is what stops you from going completely off the rails when you don't have the time or energy for your full plan? What can you do? These are preferably these are dailies. These are dailies. I mean, it could depend what it is. In the chat's asking if these are weekly or daily minimums. Clearly, it could depend, but you really would like to have some daily minimums would be best. So then we got recovery. Last one. This is the minimum that keeps stress from running the show. A sleep floor. Maybe it's in bed by 11, no matter what. Maybe it's a basic stretch or breath work routine at the end of the day. It could be journaling. It could be a shutdown routine at the end of your workday. So the standard is what keeps stress from compounding until it takes over everything. So these are the things you treat them like they're part of your schedule. So, and these aren't supposed to be ambitious targets. Um, that's not the point. The point is that they are things you can do on your worst days during your busiest week when you have zero motivation. And that's why they work. They keep you on top of it. They help you realize you're still doing something even when you're not doing your full on effort, or you just don't have the time to put everything in. You might not always have time to go to the gym for an hour every day. But if you can at least be keeping your body moving and active, you're going to maintain that progress that you've made until that point. And then when things calm down, you can always go in harder. But if you have these minimums set in place, so you always have something that you're working on. Okay, so then you got two modes. Your top end plan and your BAM plan. So this is a distinction that changes everything. You have, and these all work within one system. So your top end plan, that's what you do when life is going well, and things are maybe a bit calmer, less busy. You can do a full training schedule. You can really dial in on your nutrition. You can have optimal recovery. You're doing everything. You're firing on all cylinders. That's great. So just ride that. Sometimes it can be like that, and maybe that's when you make the most progress, and that's fine. But then you have your BAM plan. So this is what you do so you never hit zero. This is a minimum amount of movement. This is minimum nutrition, minimum recovery. It's not optimal, but it's not going to accelerate, and it's not going to accelerate your results. It might just maintain the current results you have. Maybe it's even just keeping yourself at a maintenance level. But it keeps you in the game. It protects your momentum. And most importantly, it protects your identity that you're building about yourself. Because the man who does his BAMs on a terrible week is still a man who takes care of himself. He didn't quit, he adapted to the situation. So the goal is not perfection. The goal is to never go to zero. So if you just think about that for a second, If you never went to zero, if even your worst week still had some structure, some movement, some intention, you would never have to start over. You'd never have the guilt spiral. You'd never have the is it even going to work this time kind of moment because you're never going to fully stop. So even and rather than losing all your progress, you're going to at least stay where you're at until you have a chance to start making progress again. So the men who finally become consistent are are not the ones with the most perfect weeks. They're the ones who stop disappearing every time life gets hard, and that's a shift, and that can be available to you right now. I mean, it's like I've seen people who, when they're very healthy people, very into the gym, but they've always had it kind of easy. But as soon as they get more into a career or work, they're not able to maintain that ever anymore, and they don't have these backup plans. They've always just been all in. But then once they let that slide, they don't know how to handle it anymore. So you need to have these two systems with you can have your all-in plan. That's fine, but you need to know how to dial it back sometimes too. Okay, so last piece of work. So this is building your personal BAM plan. This is so again, grabbing your pen. So number one, you want to decide on your movement minimum, your movement BAMs. So what is the minimum movement that keeps you in motion on your hardest week? So this is not your ideal. This is the floor. So write that down. So this could just be always going for a 20-minute walk. This could be doing a 15-minute body weight exercise workout. This could be the YouTube video you watch to make sure you're getting some kind of workout routine in. Um, it could be hitting at least 6,000 steps a day. Whatever it is, it needs to be something you know that you can do even when you're exhausted, stressed, and have no motivation left, that you can still push yourself into doing at least that thing. So number two, your fuel. What is the minimum nutrition standard that stops you from fully sliding? Not eating perfectly. What's the floor? Is it a protein at every meal? Is it a no random snacking after 9 p.m.? Is it eat three meals even if they're not perfect? So write this down. Okay, and then last one, your recovery BAMs. This is the minimum recovery that'll keep stress from taking over. Maybe this is in bed no later than 11, or 5 minutes of breath work before bed, or perhaps it's just no screens in the last 30 minutes of the day. What's one or two things that keep stress from compounding? Maybe it's a mandatory 5-minute meditation, whatever it is, whatever works for you to keep your recovery best. Write that down. Okay, so now the final question. What usually stops you on hard weeks? And what's your plan to stay in motion instead of going to zero? So think about your own specific patterns. Is it a weekend evenings where the structure disappears? Is it a stressful stretch at work where training is the first thing that gets cut? Is it travel or holidays, social events? What's getting thrown into your into your routine that's throwing it off? Name it, and because now you can have a plan for it. Your BAMs are that plan. So you should be able, if you're looking at these things, you should know that you can fit these bare minimums into those things. And you can pre-plan on this. You can decide what are the obstacles getting in the way, and what am I going to do when those things happen? Because they are going to happen. And this way, if you're keeping to your bare ass minimums. Um, you're never starting over again. You're always doing something. Okay, so now you should have three deliverables: your foundation, self-assessment, your identity, and your personal bare minimum plan. Those are yours to keep and start using right away. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at how these three secrets work together. Because they don't just add, they actually multiply. Foundation is going to make consistency possible. So without standards or structure or stability, you're building a plan on sand. Like you can have the best plan in the world, but if there's no foundation under it, one disruption knocks the whole thing down. Now, identity makes consistency meaningful. When your health is connected to your values and who you're becoming, not just a number on the scale, now you have a real reason to show up. So, I mean, if your reason is just to get to a certain weight loss goal, I mean, that might have some meaning, but not a lot. However, if you have the same goal and it's to become a better role model for your child, or because some people if they have sometimes it takes a health scare to get them to feel like any kind of meaningful reason to do something, which is preferably not what you want to do. You want to have hopefully a value that you can decide on or look at yourself and know that is meaningful to you, and then work out through that. You'll have a reason to show up that goes deeper than just motivation. Because motivation always fluctuates, but your identity, you can hold on to your identity. And then last one is resilience, which makes a consistent it makes consistency survive real life. Your BAMs mean that even on your worst week, you don't go to zero. You have a floor, and that floor protects your momentum, your self-trust, and your identity. So when you stack all three of these things, you're going to stop relying on discipline. You stop treating health like a temporary sprint that you're either on or off, and you start becoming the kind of man who stays in shape. So that's the power of my FIRE method. It's not a harder plan, it's a smarter system. All right. So yeah, the goal isn't to rely on discipline forever. It's to goal is to build fire. So here's where you are right now. You have the framework, you have your self-assessments, you have your identity answer, you have your BAMs. That's real usable stuff. And some of you are going to take that and make some real progress. So yeah, you're going to have two paths with this. You can do it yourself, take everything from tonight and build it on your own. And for some of you, that's going to be the right move. You heard what you needed to hear, the pieces clicked, and you know what to do, and you can go do it. But I'll be straight with you about this. What you'll still have to figure out on your own is how you personalize this beyond what we covered in this. Well, we're at 40 minutes now. And how do you actually apply it when you're in the middle of a stressful week and your brain is telling you to skip it? How do you close the gap between knowing this and living it? Because that gap is where every previous attempt has died. So how to stop slipping back into the same old cycle when there's no one watching? If that does sound familiar to you, and if you've had the knowledge before and the problem was never information, that is worth being honest about. So the path two is to have this done with you. This is my 12-week one-on-one coaching program. You take this method and together we implement it into your actual life. That means identifying your specific weakest link, not a general assessment like tonight, but a real deep dive into your patterns, building your personal standard structures and stability, tying health to your values in a way that actually holds, and creating your personalized BAMs that fit in your schedule, your stress profile, your life. And having someone in your corner who will always notice when you're about to fall off and not allowing that to happen. So this is the same method I use with every coaching client. Tonight you got the framework, and the coaching is where it becomes yours. If that sounds like something you need, here's what you do. Okay, so if you want to talk about working together, I have those two options. Yeah, you can book an assessment call. Um, And this is not going to be a pitch or anything. We're going to talk about where you are, what's been holding you back, and whether the program is the right fit for you or not. If it is, that's great. I'll tell you further steps. If not, I'll tell you what might be a better option, or I'll try to point you in the right direction, or we'll just hand you off something that you can kind of implement yourself. Um, and of course, you can also DM me, word fire, or just DM me. And whatever platform you found me on, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, get back to you and we can start a conversation, or we can just book the assessment call from there. Either way, s stop starting over. You've done enough of that, so it's time to build something that lasts. And now, if we got a little bit of time left over for Q&A. So if you have any questions about anything we covered tonight, the foundation assessment, the identity shift, BAMS, the coaching program, whatever, drop it in the chat or just give it an ask. Okay. Yeah, so personal training. So if you so one question we got, if I've had personal training before and it worked at first, but I always fall off. So this is different than personal training. Personal training is good for solving a specific problem. If you need someone to help you with your movement, how to exercise, um, what to do. I mean, different personal trainers are always going to have their different levels of what how much what they help you with. But a lot of it is just more movement based or how to work out, and they might create you a plan and stuff. But the problem is if you're still falling off with things like personal training, is it's more of a um, that's probably not the real problem. Like I said, we've covered identity work. Personal training doesn't cover anything like that. So if you're not really seeing yourself as something to change, it's not always going to work. Or maybe it's you keep on with it as long as you have that accountability, and accountability can help a lot too. Just having an appointment with a personal trainer. But if you're not fully invested in looking at everything, personal training kind of looks at one specific thing. Um, I take my program. We look at everything in life very holistically. Very not. It's not just going to be what you're doing. Like we've already talked about nutrition and recovery, but we're really going to hone in on values, and we're going to really kind of see the actual patterns that are happening that are stopping you and work on that. And yeah, like another question I often get is, um, if you've even tried coaching before and it didn't work. So most coaching programs are designed for more ideal conditions. A lot of them are, sometimes they're not really helping you all that much. They're just handing you over a plan. If that's your coaching, then that's clearly the problem. You can do that yourself. You can look online, you can find plans, you can find meal plans. You don't need someone to just tell you which one is best. Most of them, almost all of them are going to work, but there's usually if you're starting over and over every time, there's usually a deeper problem there that isn't being addressed. So the if you they give you a plan and they expect you to just follow it. So my method, the fire method, is built specifically for the moment when following the plan that the plan is breaking down. And that's a structural difference. So when the plan is going, at some point, your plan probably is going to fail. But if you have someone working with you at all times, you're always going to be able to refine that plan until, or you're going to really think about the things that maybe you're not thinking about. Like I'm going to use my experience with different obstacles that may come up and have a secondary plan or another plan that's going to help back that all up. All right, and yeah, another question is this just something going to be something that just works for a few weeks? So that's a good question. This is that fear is exactly why the system is built the way it is. So the whole point of like the BAM minimums is that you have a plan for the weeks when you don't feel like doing anything, or you really don't feel like doing it. And the identity work means that you're not relying on motivation to keep going. The foundation means you're not building on top of nothing. This it's not about just going harder, it's building something that actually holds when life is difficult. Okay, now yeah, so if you want to know how many BAMs do I need? Well, it kind of depends on your plan, but we covered the three most fundamental ones. So you definitely want a movement, at bare minimum, you want to have your movement and your nutrition. You want something that you can always fall back on there. Recovery is also very important. Sleep often gets kind of left behind or not thought of as like an afterthought, but that actually makes it a lot easier. If you're not getting enough sleep, it's very hard to follow through with everything you even want to do. And it's harder to manage stress and everything you're doing is going to feel harder, whereas you're getting proper recovery, then everything's going to feel easier. But if you at least have a minimum of what you're doing, then you know what, that comes back to a previous question asked if these are daily minimums or weekly minimums. So you could say, depending on what your minimums are, maybe it's getting like making sure you're getting at least one good strength training day a week at a bare minimum. You're doing something. Maybe a one full body workout. So if it's something like that, but it'd probably still be good to also have like a daily minimum as well. So you have that could be your step count then. So you're still keeping yourself moving, or maybe it's a morning stretch routine. So I would say definitely a nutrition minimum and a movement or physical activity minimum. And best to also have that recovery so you're taking care of your sleep as well, or that's really gonna throw you off. All right, so we just had someone join here, but we're actually just wrapping up. But at the end of this, I am going to be getting a replay set up. So we're still on the Q&A if anyone does have any further questions. Yeah, I'll definitely send out the replay. All right, so it's great being on tonight. Um, I'll send out the replay once it's ready, probably within the week, hopefully sooner, but and uh, and I'll let you know of any further steps. Okay, it's good speaking to you guys. Talk to you later.